Hello, back. We are back. We are back. We are back with more Wu-Sabat. We are back. We are back. We're back with more Wu-Sabat. Rahubat Moisar. Rahubat. We alive. We alive. We alive. Okay. Hope all is well. It's another week. Where we at? Today is August the 5th, 2025. What's that? 25 years into the hereafter, right? We're in a new cycle, the sun cycle. This is our time to rise. And as the master teacher says, we as mummies have to get out of the grave. We have to raise ourselves out of the grave of ignorance, of mental death, and begin to rule ourselves, to do for ourselves, to stop relying on others, to feed us, to clothe us, to educate us, to provide health care for us, to provide security for us. We allow our adversaries to do all of these things for us when we are supposed to be doing these things for ourselves. This is only going on because of mental death. This is only happening because of mental death. Sad, but it is the reality. Sad, but that's the reality of our situation. All right, so let's get started. For those who do not know me, my name is Peti Sina Teptu Re'e, and I've been over 30, now it's going to be a 36-year student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher, known to us as Pan Nabab Yad Nanan, also known as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, who has been teaching us our ancient culture we know as Wu-Sabat, also known as Nuwaupu, which stands for those who make decisions based on sound right reasonability, based on the principles of Ma'at, based on the wisdom of the Hutri. In essence, our culture has always been about being in harmony with natural nature. As Nagato, woolly hair, melanated people, our culture was always about being in harmony with natural nature. And we argue that we're suffering as a people around the world, around the globe, because we've gotten away from our original way of life, our original culture, and we have adapted and accepted foreign cultures that has led to our own self-destruction. We've been living now Western culture now for the past 500 some odd years due to us being enslaved and colonized as a people, and we have adapted to the culture of our enemies, of our adversaries. And Western culture is just the opposite of our original culture, being connected to nature. Western culture is literally the opposite. It's based on artificial everything, anti-nature. Western culture, as all of us who live in it, GMO and synthetic this and synthetic that and plastic this and plastic that. It has no connection to nature. And obviously that it's its own self-defeated and self-destructive way of life, because how can you create a culture that's anti-nature? It's basically doomed to fail, because nature is what rules supreme. So anyone who creates a society like that obviously are extremely ignorant to the reality that is a culture and a lifestyle that is obviously doomed to fail, which is why we have chaos on the planet today. Chaos reigns on the planet because of the fact that humanity has no connection to nature, has zero connection to nature. In fact, I pulled up this map, and where is it at? They have a map of all the conflict on the planet. All the conflict on the planet. This is a sister here. You see her, Kemi. She's a Nigerian who lives in where's she living? In I think London, Britain, Great Britain, but she's anti her own people. Like one of these black politicians in Europe who basically anti-black. She doesn't love herself. It's sad, but this is what we're up against. All right, here we are. So yeah, this is a map. This is a map of the current wars that are going on the planet right now. It's on Wikipedia where I found this. This is current wars on the planet. And on the below the dark brown is wars where 10,000 or more people are dying. Then you have minor wars where it's 1,000 to 10,000 people are dying. Then you have what they call conflict, which is 100 to 1,000 people are dying, and then the skirmishes are anywhere from 1 to 100 people are dying. So this is basically the whole planet is at war. The whole planet is at war. Wars everywhere on every continent. Chaos and chaos, because when you're fighting wars, you're destroying things, not just humanity, but you're trying to destroy the earth and things and within nature. And that just goes to show you how disconnected humanity is from nature. Nature is what sustains us all. We get our food from nature. We get our clothing from nature. We get our shelter from nature. Why would you destroy it? But look at humanity. This is the remnants of the spell. This is the remnants of the spell, as the master teacher's been talking about. This is why the world is in chaos. So you see this map of war everywhere. War everywhere. Chaos. Chaos. And look at all the conflicts on the continent in Africa. This constant, because there's such a concentration on controlling the continent. And this only is existing because of our own ignorance, our mental death. That's why we wanted to talk about today's topic, Bible interpretations and explanations. And because that's really the source of most of the conflict on the planet. It's the religious mind that has basically blinded humanity from the realities of nature. The religion is what has humanity not acknowledging that the forces of nature are the ruling forces. The sun, the planet, the water, the sky, right? Vegetation. These are the living forces of nature that sustains our life, not some invisible spirit force. And so because humanity has no connection to nature, they're not thinking about it. They're calling them unseen spirits. They're thinking unseen spirits are going to help them, not realizing the forces, the spirit forces right in front of you is the sun. Right? Spirit means energy. That's the most potent spirit force or energy source of all existence that all humanity have to acknowledge and respect, because without the sun, there is no life on the planet. Right? The other force is the planet itself. The planet is what yields all that we need to sustain ourselves. As you said, the food, the clothing, the shelter. But yet humanity has no connection. So you see all these wars. They don't realize, you don't destroy each other and the planet while you're at it. That lets you know that we're living on a planet where everyone is mentally dead. The ruling forces on the planet are the forces of chaos. And this is what we're up against. Rahubat, who came in the chat, Jetty, Rahubat, just for anyone to know, let everyone know, we're doing these lives every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're doing these lives from now on every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're open for questions and answers pertaining to our lectures. I like to try to focus on our lectures and our discussions. That's why I encourage all of you guys to watch and study our lectures and to come up with detailed questions pertaining to those lectures, because the lectures that we do on this channel is designed to help you overcome the mental death that we're all suffering from. Because the reality is this: Until we're working together as one body, because that's the only way we're gonna solve these problems we're dealing with. We're all still suffering from mental death. We haven't realized that the only solution to this, to what we're dealing with, is we must work together as a collective whole in order to fight these adverse forces that is dominating the planet. Individually, we can't do it. Individually, we can't do it. And so this is what, I've always been dedicated to, and this is what my work is, why I do these discussions, but looking for like minds, right? Looking for like minds. And so this is something the master teachers always talked about. It's finding those like minds where we can work together. Here's a Patarat, right? Black magic, white magic. Patarat, black magic, white magic. The master talks about that. The working together to solve our problems. But the challenge is we're under the spell. We're still under the spell, which is why we're not working together. We don't, the spell is what creates the division, the self-hate, not figuring out how we can support one another. What's up, Las Vegas? You're in Las Vegas? That's what's up. In fact, my wife planned on going out there. Her sisters have some plan. They want to go to Las Vegas next month or something. I've never been. She's been before, but I've never been out to Las Vegas. Interesting place. That's what's up. That's what's up. So again, just as a reminder, this is we're open for questions. That's why I'm doing these lives. I will be posting my other lectures as I usually do, right? Where I'll focus on a specific topic. And so one of the things I plan on doing is posting a lecture so that probably on Saturdays, that way you guys can watch the lecture on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then when I come live on Tuesdays, you guys can ask detailed questions pertaining to that particular discussion. So that's kind of how I want to set up the classes. Okay, wow. Student of master teachers, as long as I've been, 1990. Yeah, I came in 89. So wow, we you and I we started at the same time as Ansars, the ending of the Ansar school, right? I literally took my Shahada when I came in to the doctrine August the 9th, 1989. So August the 9th will be my anniversary, my 36-year anniversary after I took my Shahada, right? I took my Shahada in Bushwick, Brooklyn. If anyone been to Bushwick, Brooklyn, in the bookstore, the Tinsa Kadar bookstore is where I took my Shahada. For those who don't know what a Shahada is, in Islam is bearing witness, right, to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you're going to follow the tenets of Islam. It's the same thing what Christians call being born again, where you now are taking on a new life, a new cultural way. So it's the same thing that Christians talk about, being born again. In Islam, for those who do not know, we call it Shahada. And so I was born again into the culture of Wu-Sabat, the culture of right knowledge, the culture as Ansars, who were dealing with the realities of the religious theology the master was teaching us about Islam and the Bible, and our role in that from that point of view back then, for those who don't know. But that was some time. Phenomenal experience. I mean, it's been some journey. Been doing this for so long, and it's good to give people a history, lesson. I haven't talked about that in a while. Just to give people a history lesson, an update on background. It's good to always know someone's background. And I like to do that, and I like to talk about it a lot. We all need to get to know one another. In fact, let me see. I'm show you some pictures from back in the day. I have pictures back then. If I can find it, uh, um, I'll let you guys see, because I think it's good. It's good to see. Uh, yeah, here we go. Here's some pictures. This is back in the day when I first came into the doctrine. I've showed this before. Let me see if where is it? I've showed it before. Uh, Here's a picture. That's me on the left. This was literally probably 1990. That's me on the left. This was another brother. I'm sure he's not in the doctrine no more. That's me sitting down, have my jelly bear with my kufi on. Again, this is probably taken in 1990. I was in school and had my jelly bear on. And this was a brother. We took this picture in front of a brother who was because we used to sell our books and incense and oils in the train station in New York City. I have a picture of my table. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, this was my table. I used to set up. This is a picture of my brother on the left, and then another brother who was in the doctrine back in the day on the right. I'm sure he's not here, but that's my table. So I was selling books. I was selling incense oils. I also sold costume jewelry because women actually liked that back in the day. So I used to sell it in the train station and all. So yeah, I was living in Bushwick, Brooklyn, in the community. I only was there for a couple of months. I didn't stay there that long. Then I moved back in when I was in North Carolina, because I wound up moving out to North Carolina a year later in 91. And I was living in the community in 91. And again, I was only there for a couple of months, and then I was out, and I've been on the outskirts ever since, doing my thing, obviously still promoting, teaching, always doing that, working with different bookstores. These were some of the first brothers that I was with. This was Brother Cypher Dean, who just transitioned. I think he just transitioned last year. Cypher Dean, he lives out here in Georgia and all. I forget his name. His current. That was his name back then, back in the 80s and the 90s. I forget what his name is. Then you have Khalik Abdul Khalik. What's his current name? He's out here. Let me see. Where is his picture at? Yeah, for people might know him. If I could see this. Abdul Khalik. That's what his name was, Khalik. Some people know him as Kirk. These are some of the brothers that they were kind of mentors for me when I first came into the doctrine, because they came in like 1980, 1979 or something like that. So they kind of predated me by a decade. Okay, so you out of Chicago. That's what's up. That's what's up. You out of Chicago. That's what's up. Oh, you know Khalik? Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, Khalik. Khalik was like my mentor when I first came in. And he was one of the brothers I used to roll with back in the day. I first came in. Khalik's still around. He's still around. He lives out here not too far in the same town as me in Stone Mountain, Georgia. But he's around. I be texting him time to time, be sending him some YouTube videos, and we communicate from time to time, but not too often, unfortunately. But yeah, no, those are the memories, man. Those are the memories. Back in the day, I was in the SOI. This is a picture of the SOI. I have a picture of me too. The sword we call the swords of Islam, for those who don't know, because the Sunnis were harassing us harassing the master teacher. They came out with that answer cult book, and they used to threaten us. So we set up our own SOI like the with the Nation of Islam have the FOI and all. And I was in this march. We did these marches and we did training. That was something else back then. That was some serious history for those who know the history. Yo, Raul Bat, Raul Bat, Pharaoh. What's up, family? That's what's up. We do need to reconnect. We do need to connect. All is good. All is good. All is definitely good, man. So much work, so much to do. So much work, so much to do. We're all in it together, though. We are all in it together. And all, but we're just going down some memory lane. You know, going down memory lane. It's knowing the history is important, especially for new people who aren't familiar on the history and you know how far we go back and all the work that we've done. Okay, that's what's up, my man. We're using ATL2. You left in 2014 and you went out to Las Vegas. That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, man. Wow. So much work, so much work, so much work. But we're in it. We're in it. We gotta keep in it. You know, we're at war. We are definitely at war with Leviathan that's plaguing the planet. It is definitely plaguing the planet, and it's only up to us to make a difference. That's why we're doing these classes, and really focused on how and what we need to do to overcome our challenges. And for those who might just be coming in, I was talking about earlier this map right here. This is a map of the current wars on the planet. You know, the planet is in chaos. There's war, and literally every continent is at war. You know, some type of conflict. Because you see Mexico, like United States is based. I mean, I don't know why United States should be lit up too with the you know, citizens, people here. We're constantly killing ourselves in this country. We're gonna do. Anyone who turns on the news and see murder and death all throughout the United States. You know, so I don't know why they don't call that a war. It's constant chaos here. Okay, that's what's up. You worked on the land. That's what's up. Oh, okay. I didn't see you also cut hair. You say you cut Khalik's hair. That's what that's what's up, Daddy. Or Jetty, excuse me. That's what's up. We all must hold on to the rope and never let go, as the master teacher has always taught us. Again, for those who may not know that, the master always told us, hold on, because this is a serious journey for all of those who come into the culture, because we've all been challenged by Leviathan. You know, all of us, especially us who's been around for as long as we have, for decades. We've seen so many people come into the culture and then they leave and they reintegrate themselves right back into Leviathan, you know, into the world of chaos. And it's sad because you think individuals overstand the mission. You think people realize what we're up against, that we're fighting adverse forces, and one minute they're with us, next minute they're right back, in the land of the beasts, assimilating into their reality and forgetting that we're at war. So it's pretty sad, but that's where we at. That's where we at. That's what we're dealing with. Unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with and all. But again, family, just real quick, I always like to go over our core principles of the culture of Wu-Sabat, right? A lot of people don't know about the core principles of Wu-Sabat that the master teachers taught us, that we live by. So, it's the obligation of every student of Wu-Sabat to educate, others, right? Each one teach one, as we've always taught. Each one teach one, educate others about the culture. We're all responsible to educate our people, for especially when they're asking questions about what's going on in the world. We're all obligated to share this knowledge, to teach them about the culture and why living our culture is so much better, to get away from this chaos culture that's ruling the planet, especially America. America is the land of chaos. At all. But again, the first key to our culture is Ashak, right? Or we say Ashuk, or you can say Ashak, either way, which is divine love, right? All existence itself is divine love, the creative force. And as students of Wu-Sabat, the goal has always been to become one with the creative force, right? When we were Ansars, we said become one with Allah. That's one of the issues that we used to have with the Sunnis, because they were like, what are they talking about, being one with Allah? They had no clue what that meant. They had no clue what that meant. They thought the master teacher was making stuff up. In fact, that was one of the topics the Ansar cult book was attacking. And the master teacher in a rebuttal book had to explain, to this brother, you obviously don't know Islam. You think you obviously don't know what the mission is in Islam, what the Prophet Muhammad was really talking about, but Allah itself is a creative force, and we come from that creative force. The master teacher was explaining that, but most Muslims don't, they have no clue. They just ignore the fact, like one of the reasons they don't read the Torah, where in the Torah in Genesis, Genesis chapter 2 verse 7, where it says God breathed into man the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So we have the spirit of the creator in us, and you have to identify with that spirit force. That's what the book of John chapter 1 verse, John chapter 1, the beginning verses, right? In him was light, and the light was the life of men, and light shined in the darkness, but the darkness comprehended not. People don't comprehend it because they have no spiritual knowledge. And the master teacher was explaining that light is the light of the creative force that we must comprehend within ourselves. That our people are ignorant. See, this is going into the Bible interpretations. Our people don't understand how to interpret what they're reading in their Bibles, because they don't realize that it's plagiarized doctrine that came from ancient Egyptian doctrine and ancient Sumerian doctrine. So if you don't know ancient Egyptian culture and you don't know ancient Sumerian culture, you're not going to be able to comprehend what the Bible is really talking about, because that's where they're getting those concepts from. Oh, that's what's exciting. See, my man, you say you lived in Stone Mountain for 15 years. Wow, that's what's up. I've been in Lithonia I came here real quick, family. I know I'm going back and forth, but I came to Georgia. What is it? Back in 2002, 2001, right? Bought a house, moved down here with family. 2001. So Lithonia and Stone Mountain, because still have a house in Lithonia and I have another house in Stone Mountain, and I'm in Stone Mountain now. And so I've been Lithonia and Stone Mountain since 2001, basically. Both places, 2001. So it's I like it here. I be honest with you, fam. I gotta be honest. I never liked growing up in New York City. New York really wasn't for me. I'm be honest with you. As a child, I never liked it. I never liked it. I know people who love it. My brother's still there. He loves it, but I never liked the city. I really didn't. I like where I'm at now so much better in the South, but I never liked New York City. That's a story all to itself. That's a class all to itself of just about living in these cities. Oh wow. Okay, you're in Harrison subdivision. I know exactly. Yeah. That's what's up. I'm off of Harrison in Stone Mountain. That's what's up. That's what's up. So again, where was I? So I was talking about the Bible and when we were in Islam and how we were explaining to the Sunnis that the goal of every student of Islam was to become one with Allah. But obviously they didn't understand that because they teach in Islam not to read the other books of the prophets, even though the Quran talks about the Prophet Muhammad, Prophet Jesus, what they call Isa and Abraham, that Islam is of the religion of Abraham, and you follow the religion of Abraham. Anyone who don't follow Abraham makes a fool of themselves. That's in the second surah of the Quran. But they don't read the books from the descendants of Abraham, the books of the Israelites, which is the Torah, right? They supposed to, but they claim it's tampered with, and so that's a whole nother debate. And the master for years was explaining to them book after book, explaining why you acknowledge all of the scriptures. So that's a lot of their problems right there. When people are trying to interpret their books, their Bibles and the Quran, again, one of the biggest issues is the language, as the master teacher always talked about. How can you be a part of religious dogma and doctrine and learn the language that the doctrine comes from? So people are Christians and Muslims for like 10, 20, 30 years and never learn the languages of these religions. So how would you ever know you know the truth if you don't know the language? And even knowing the language is not good enough, because you really have to know the culture of the timeline that the scriptures were written. If you don't understand the culture, it's hard to comprehend the language without understanding the culture. That's why people could come to America and try to learn English, but they have a hard time with their English because they really don't understand the culture here. Because language equals culture. So you have to be familiar with both. And that's very important, family. When you're studying any kind of culture, is language is key. So in Wu-Sabat, as the brother was talking about learning, Nuwaupu, or we say Sabaic, it's so important for us to know the language. Language is key because that is how you control. Well, that language is how they put us under the spell. They forbid us from speaking our native languages, and they force these European languages on us. So our people either speak English or they speak in French, which are the two main languages that our people are speaking, especially on the continent. You have a lot of French speaking Africans and all, because France colonized like 20 different countries in Africa, and they all speak French. From everybody keep hearing about Burkina Faso, they speak French out there. Mali, they speak French. Niger, they speak French. Guinea-Bissau, French. Congo, French. I mean, the list is endless, you know. Ivory Coast, French. It's constant. So you have a lot of French speaking Africans. So they either speaking English or they're speaking French. You know, Nigeria, you know, is English. Ghana is English. Zambia is English. You know, and those are the two main European languages on the continent. Some people speak Portuguese. Some people speak Spanish. Only a handful of places do that, like Angola. Dealt with the Portuguese, whatever. That's how, you know, you connect them with Brazil. That's why our people in Brazil speak Brazilian, but it's like a form of it's Portuguese, basically, base language. But language is key. That's, you know, that's how we control the hearts and minds of people. Again, family, as I want to repeat, today's Tuesdays, we're having discussions on the culture of Wu-Sabat, Wu-Nuwaupu, and I try to do questions pertaining to the lectures that we do, right? The topics that we focus on. And anyone who pays attention to anything I talk about, I'm always talking about Leviathan, because that's what the mass has been talking about for the last 60 years that we're all dealing with, the spell of Leviathan, the moon culture, the culture of the dead. This is what we're all challenging with, how to overcome the culture of the dead. You know, because Wu-Sabat is the culture of the living. And this is what we're all challenged with, is overcoming the culture of the dead spirit forces that their religions have got our people enslaved to mentally. This is what we're fighting against. It's overcoming this culture of death. You know, and so if you go to, hold on, I wanted to bring something up. If you go to, where are we at? I thought I brought it up, but I didn't. Hold on, I'm going to bring up a scroll. Nope. Let's see. Hold on. Book. Where are we at? I'm looking for a scroll, family. If I can find it. Where is this? Let's see. Not this one. It's another one. Where are we at? Here we go. This one is this is Actual Facts number 24. Who you are, not what you accept. Actual Facts number 24. Who you are, not what you accept, right? If you go to page, let's see, the first page, he starts off saying this, the master teaches. He says, do you know there is a difference between who you are by nature and what you accept by nature? You are Negroid, or Nagada, we say, African. That is who you are. Now, as to what you have accepted, that is what you allow yourself to transform into in your mind, in your belief system or religion, even to the point where you have been removed from your own place of origin, now called Africa, and you now accept or believe that you are other than yourself and nature, even to the point where you live by the laws of the opposites of your genes, your DNA, your race, and your kind, right? And so our people don't want to acknowledge who they are by natural nature. They choosing all of these titles, these religious titles, these ethnic titles, tribal titles, national titles, right? Here in America, if you're familiar with everybody, they say I'm FBA or I'm ADOS, so I'm it's just more division. And as the master teacher's talking about, it's about who you are by nature, not what you've accepted you chose to be based on some cultural ideal. This is the spell. While people don't know who they are by natural nature, we're our people are suffering from ignorance. And as students of Wu-Sabat, it's our job to educate our people who you are by nature. That's the key, because somebody outside motorcycle. If we don't get to that point, chaos, we're going to still experience chaos among us as a people until we get to the reality of who we are. You know, same book, you go to page 6, master teacher says this. He says, the living dead is the cursed seed of ghost people, the Mukasu race, and the cursed seed of ghost people, the Mukasu race, and those who choose to be their zombies and ghouls, slaves, or servants of any race, right? So he's talking about the Mukasu, the Caucasian, are the children of the dead, right? Their culture is the culture of death. That's why we see death everywhere on the planet. As I was showing you guys, the wars all over the world started by them with their weapons, because everybody's using their weapons to kill themselves. So they spread the weapons of death everywhere. They're form of entertainment. Just look at all their TV shows. Their major movies all about death, killing, or lust. It's one or the other. You know, it's chaos culture, right? So he says again, the living dead is the cursed seed of ghost people, the Caucasoid race, or the Mukasa would say, and the cursed seed of ghost people, the Mukasa race, and those who choose to be their zombies, ghouls, slaves, servants of any other race. And many of our people are ghouls of this death culture, right? It says Nagato are the living race, the Mukasu are the dead race, opposites by nature and beyond. We're supposed to know that we're opposite by nature. They're the culture of the dead, the cross, right? They worship death. The Bible is the book of the dead. Their God had to die for their sins. You have to die to meet their Lord and Savior. Culture of the dead. They wear that cross. The cross is the symbol of death. They crucify their God on the cross. Again, death. All of it is death. Our symbol is the Ankh. Everyone knows the Ankh, right? The Ankh is the symbol of life. Or we say the Ankh Twi, the symbol of life, the symbol of resurrection, mentally resurrected ones, the ones who are in tune with natural nature. So they push their symbol, the cross, symbol of death, and we push our symbol, the Ankh, the symbol of life. Real simple. These are actual facts that our people don't know that they're supposed to know this. So let's keep going. It says this: the ever-living race is those forces of ether to flesh and blood of nature and beyond, who constantly resolve to preserve and magnify life with joy and music and dance, as you see in Africa. We people of soul, called soul people, have life, living soul. They even call us colorful people, right? We're the children of life. Our culture is rooted in life, being connected to nature, as I was saying before. He says, here we go, paragraph 17. He says this, and the dead are those physical spirit forces of nature and beyond which resolve to destroy and nullify life, joy, and happiness. They don't dance or sing, not very colorful, and this is why they have lost their very souls and are not in tune with nature's movements, right? The Mukasu is not in tune with nature. He says, they are that which, not those who, and seek only to preserve to and seek only the preserving and magnifying of dead and death, killing and even murdering others. They worship death and the dead in their religions. Right? Then he goes to say, so therefore, since the Nagato and the Mukasa races are opposites by nature, one must represent life and the other death by nature. Thereby, it stands to sound reason that since the Nagato, the African race, was the first root race on the planet, as now confirmed by all, then Africans would represent life because there must be life before there can be death. Now, life and death exist out of one another as taught in my writings as the Hutri. Right? It says, read it again. Life and death exist out of one another as taught in my writings as the Hutri family. He's talking about the smack circle, right? You have the cycle of life and you have the cycle of death. So you have the cycle of Nupu. Nupu is the realm of the living. And then you have the cycle of Zupu. Zupu is the realm of the dead. Those are cycles. Sun cycle, moon cycle. Sun cycle represent the children of the sun. Moon cycle represent the children of the dead. Right? So this is nature knowledge that our ancestors used to know that we forgotten. Over 6,000 years ago, we became ignorant to our own natural nature and existing within nature. We forgot our own spiritual science. And that's why we're suffering as a people. This is the whole point of the master teacher. You know, we as students of Wu-Sabat, we have to teach this, right? Family, we have to educate. Our people don't know none of this. They don't know any of this. They don't know that us and them are opposites by nature. We have two different vibratory frequencies. You're not supposed to blend them in, because the minute you blend them in, you blend in because we have a certain vibration. Everything in nature is vibration, right, family? Everything in nature is vibration. Every species in nature represents its own unique vibration. Every species in nature represents its own unique vibration, which creates your matrix. So our genetic matrix is formulated based on our vibrational nature, produces your matrix, how you personify. And that can be animate life forms or inanimate objects as well. It's the same thing. Everything is based on a certain matrix. And that matrix has a frequency. And so the African race is its own unique matrix, genetic matrix, right? And when you alter your vibration, you alter your matrix. You basically interfere with it. And that's what put us under the spell when our matrix got altered. Our genetic matrix got altered. And that's what put us under the spell, where now we're not in tune with our own nature. And it cut us off from our ancestors. And so this is the science that Wu-Sabat came to teach. Right? So where we at? So he says, so now life and death exist out of one another as taught in my writings, as the Hutri. He says, with updates for the hereafter doctrine, you will see both life and earth have their cycles of each other as the same origins, Pa'ut, the laws of nature and beyond, right? So he's talking about the smack circle. You go through different cycles within nature, within the universe. It's always moving through these different cycles. Starting with the cycle Nuwaupu, then it moves into the cycle Zupu, and it moves from sun cycles to moon, the moon cycles out, as I was saying. He says, Nagato, the African race, can never liberate itself without knowing and accepting and practicing the law of the opposites. You hear that? I'll read it again for those who don't know. As students of Wu-Sabat, we're supposed to know this. He says, Nagato, Negroids, the African race can never liberate itself without knowing and accepting and practicing the law of the opposites, as taught in Nuwaupu. Divine laws of nature, of who you are, who you really are, not what you have become over these past 6,000 years of death rule, right? We've been under the moon cycle, the cycle of the dead. And we've forgotten our knowledge about these cycles and about the different types of forces, spirit forces that exist, and what forces we can harmonize with and what forces we cannot. And we're suffering because we're ignorant to this reality, which is why our people are emotionally unstable. We don't know how to control our emotional state. Emotions, energy, and motion, your own spiritual nature. Because of our spiritual ignorance, we don't understand the energy flows, and the Mukasu plays off of our emotions, which is what their commercials are all about. Commercials are designed to play on your emotions, whether it's for food, whether it's for a product, cars, furniture, and the millions of other things they come up with, and they affect you emotionally. Their movie industry affects you emotionally. Their music affects us emotionally. And we supposed to be in control of our emotions, not allowing others to manipulate our emotions. And as you know, all we are is being manipulated emotionally, which is causing conflict and chaos within our environment, our society, among our relationships, why we have a hard time dealing with each other. Because we're not in control of our own emotions, which opens us up, as the master teacher explained, to spirit possession. And unfortunately, we're all walking around with these adverse forces moving through us, while the master teacher wrote the book Genetic Kiss, where he explains this in detail. This is a science. This is a high science that we have to be, if we really want liberation, right, family? If we really want liberation, we have to understand this advanced science of how to understand forces. The forces, that's what our addictions are, right? We have food addictions, we have drug addictions, we have sex addictions, we have all kinds of addictions going on with us. And addictions play on your emotions. Emotion is energy in motion. And that's how you lose your soul, because your soul is what? Your emotion, your emotional force moving through your spinal column. And so when the master said he came to restore our soul, that means you have to have control over your emotional state, which means you have to have control over your mind, your conscience, your divine mind. We've lost our mind, and you lose your mind when you join a foreign culture that teaches you to be other than you are by nature. It takes you out of harmony with nature when you're not in tune with your own nature. You begin to have a negative, adverse emotional impact on yourself and put you in an unstable emotional state, which is what you see among us as a people. We're just emotional wrecks, because we don't understand the science of energy, these energies that are in motion that move through us, that we supposed to be in control of these emotions. Why do you think we can't come together? We come together, we start debating, arguing, fighting, and then we don't want to be around each other. Why is that happening? It's simple. Because we can't control our emotional state. That's what the doctrine of Wu-Sabat is here to teach us. How, one, to acknowledge this is what's going on, right? We didn't even realize this is what's going on, you know? And once you can acknowledge that this is happening, then you can set the parameters on how to deal with it, right? Because everything is energy, vibrating energy. The human body is nothing but vibrating energies. We must know that. And what's in control of the energies? Your consciousness, the mind. The mind is what controls all forces of nature, because the mind is what grew nature, right? The first principle in the wisdom of Tahuti is what? All is mind. That's the first principle of the wisdom of Tahuti. This is what our ancestors knew and taught. That mind power is the greatest of all powers. That's why you always have me reading this quote from the master teacher. He put it in a 9-ball back in 1970s. He taught us this. Where if you go to the core principles, right, that I talk about, and let's see. And I wrote the quote here. This is a quote from the 9-ball part, I believe it's part 1. And I'm always reading this quote, and I'm going to keep reading this quote until we get it. Until we really get it, we'll get it. All right, so this is a quote from the 9-ball. He says, all power, here's the key, all power begins in the mind, be it political, economic, military, or scientific, because the body is just a framework and tool for the mind. Therefore, the prime power is mind power, from which all other powers develop and mature, including the power of liberation. 9 ether develops 9 reason. 9 reason develops 9 knowledge. And 9 knowledge develops the 9 mind power, which is prerequisite to woolly hair, Nagato, mental, and physical liberation. Do y'all understand that? It's through what? 9 knowledge. 9 knowledge is right knowledge. It's the same thing. When you have the right knowledge, you can make the right decisions. If you keep making the right decisions, that leads to a life of righteousness. But we're not living in a life of righteousness. But why? Because we're not making the right decisions. Why are we not making the right decisions? Because we're not in control of our emotional state. What do we say in our prayers that we do? Let's bring up that. Let's bring up our prayers that you all should be familiar with, and those who are not, you're gonna learn, right? So where is the chant? Here it is, right here. Right, so we say baru baru baru, baru baru baru, nabab nathar mukhtar, naut mugdad badad patah, naut muglas badad yanun. Right, so holy, 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 master, overseer, almighty. Right, no God except Patah, no savior except Yanun. We say Pa Takyun, our affirmation. Then we say Anuki Juef Pa Ashuk Im Pa Pa'ut. Says, I am inside the divine love of the all expanding, right? The creative force, all expanding, Pa'ut. Wu Kala Ashuk Kawon Juef Niya. And all divine love is inside me. Anuki Kasamlin in Papa'ut. I am a part of the all expanding. Wu Papa'ut Kawun Kasamlin in Niya. And the all expanding is a part of me, right? So we're supposed to be in tune with the creative force, right? Pa'ut. That's why we say this affirmation as a reminder. Anuki Wahu Amad Papa'ut. I am one as the all expanding. Wu Papa'ut Kawun Wahu Amad Nayi. Niya. As the all expanding is one as me. Naku Kador Naju America Samun in Papa'ut. I can succeed as a part of the all expanding. Wu-Sabat Amar Muskasan, and fell as an individual person. And that's why we're suffering, because we, under European cultural system, teaches all of us to be individuals. They groomed us, they brainwashed us to act like individuals. That's how their system is set up. And that's anti-Wu-Sabat, to be functioning as an individual, because nature creates species. The Nagara race is a species that's supposed to exist in harmony with each other, working collectively together to accomplish things. The minute you start dividing yourself and fracturing yourself and splitting yourself up, failure is inevitable. That's why we're failing, right? That's why we're suffering. That's why we're having a hard time, because of this constant division. This is our challenge, family. This is our challenge. So we say these affirmations, we're supposed to say them every day, 3 times a day, as a reminder, remembrance, to tap into this. We can't just say these things, we have to put into action, right? We can't just say these things, we have to put into action. That's the key. Let's finish it. Nakuk Kador Kawun Kalal Pafaf Nakuk Arud Joef Pa Pa'ut. I can be all that I wish in the all expanded. Ama Wase Ama Aratni Kawun Laye Bakui Joef Pa Pa'ut. As long as my wish is to stay in the all expanding. Anuki Yabad Biya Nafashni. I am never by myself. Pa Pa'ut Kawun. Anuki. The all expanding is I am. Pa Pa'ut Kador. Naku Kador. The all expanding I can. Pa Pa'ut Amu. Nakuk Amu. The all expanding does, I do. Right? And so we're supposed to understand this affirmation and embody it, become in tune with it, live it. That's the key. So we have to find a way to start working together again, because our division is the problem. And the reason why we're so divided is because we don't have control over our emotional state, because we keep conflicting with each other, having conflicts with one another. That's the issue. So the master said it's all about ashuk, divine love. Once you're in tune with the creative force, you won't be susceptible to the negative mind state. It's the negative mind that keeps us divided. Tai Chi is very important, family. That's very, exercise is very key. Said that's one of the things we talk about when it comes to health. Brother talk about Tai Chi. That's an important key to health. That's one of the core cultural principles, right? If you go back to our principles, Ashak, number 1, resurrection, right? Becoming goddesses and gods by opening your third eye, right? Remember, your emotions is energy in motion. That's dealing with spirit energy, okay? It's our spiritual ignorance that has imprisoned us while we're in our conditions. You have to restore your spiritual knowledge, your spiritual insight. That's the whole point of opening your third eye. Why the master teachers talked about that so much throughout our doctrine. We must open our third eyes. That will put us back in tune with our own spiritual nature, and you will be in control of your energies that move through the body, your emotional energies. Understand this, why this is so important. Number 3, third principle, the wisdom of the Hutri and Ma'at, right? The Bastard wrote the book, the wisdom of the Hutri. It's where it teaches us core principles of the Hutri. One of the core principles of the wisdom of the Hutri is growth. Anything that's not growing is dying. Since the master teacher has been kidnapped, where's our growth? The one positive thing is we put out a lot of the books, a lot of the information, phenomenal. Since the master's been gone, we really needed this knowledge. But far as where's our economic growth as a tribe, as a nation, as a body of Wu-Sabat, where's the growth? We stopped growing since the master was taken from us. Anything that's not growing is dying. That's a core principle within our culture, is growth. Right? That's in the wisdom of Tahuti, Ma'at, right? Our whole culture, the culture of Pa Natharu, is based on the principles of Ma'at. The master teacher taught us what those principles are. Righteousness, justice, balance, order. Those are 4 core principles of Ma'at. All of existence is based on those 4 principles. Principle number 4 is relationships, right? Live of, for, and by each other. As I was just talking about that. It's number 4. Number 5, morphic resonance and matrix. Morphic resonance is vibration, right? So everyone has their own unique vibration. Each race has its own unique vibration. When you fall out of tune with your natural vibrational frequency, it disconnects you from nature, which disconnects you from your ancestors, your overseers, the Panatharu. That's why the master was so important. He came back to teach us how to realign ourselves, to connect back with our natural tones, which will then restore our divine consciousness. So morphic resonancy is extremely important. He wrote the book, Actual Facts number 46. Actual Facts number 46, for those who are not familiar with it. Intelligent design, divine design, or plot of aliens, right? That's why that scroll was put out explaining this science of the matrix. Principle number 6 is Leviathan. If you don't understand Leviathan, there is no way you can truly be a Sabian, because that's what we're fighting with. You're fighting a Leviathan within your own character, the negative spirits within you that puts us in a negative state while we have a hard time with our own emotional state. And we have to fight Leviathan outside of ourselves. Family, friends, right? People we work around, they all have the spirits of Leviathan moving through them. That's why everyone is out of tune with nature, because everyone has these adverse forces moving through them. Mostly everyone is addicted to something. We all have bad habits. Those are adverse forces moving through us. Principle number 7, your soul and your spirit, right? Your soul, we just said, your soul is your emotional force. Your spirit is your actual life force, right? So that's what the Leviathan, the disagreeable ones, work on taking our soul, controlling our emotions, which control our mental state, our minds. When you lose your mind, you lose your soul. Your mind is what connects you to the masters. It connects you to Panatharu. When you sell your soul, that means you give up your consciousness to someone else. You live for someone else. You're serving someone else's interests, which is what you see our people do by the millions. We are living in the image of other than self, which is what religion did to us. Religion taught us that the white man is God, and so our people now worship the white man as God. They've lost their freaking soul. They've lost, as we say, they lost their damn mind. This is the problem with their religions. We've lost our mind, and we have to restore our minds by educating our people. You do not supposed to be worshiping the white man as God. He is not your creator. He has nothing to do with us. They're our enemy. They're the ones who kidnapped, imprisoned us, enslaved us, abused us. How can we have the same God? As the master teacher explains, it is impossible. Their gods are what taught them how to enslave us. How you think they got the knowledge to do what they've done to us? From their gods. While they were kidnapping, raping us, killing us, they were praying to their gods to help them be successful in their endeavors. And now we're worshiping the gods their gods that help them overcome us, how foolish are we? And then we're wondering why we're still suffering. So as Sabians, family, right? We're the ones who's supposed to be teaching this. Principle number 8, health. Positive mind. The first key to health is a positive mind. As we all know, our people are negative. You can just watch social media and you see it. Negative, 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 negative Nancy's. All we do is talk about some problems without ever really giving any solutions. The negative mind attracts negative spirits. The negative mind attracts negative spirits. So if you having a hard time with a negative mind, that's one of the things. That's how again you lose your soul, right? When you don't have control of your consciousness, that's the losing of your soul. Your mind is connected to your spinal column, which is your emotional centers moving through the spine. Your emotions, it's connected to your mind. The back of the brain, the back of the neck, the medulla oblongata, the brain, the cerebral spinal cord, right? You have your consciousness moves through from the brain synapses moving through the spine down the back, which allow your body to move, and you have emotions that connects with your solar plex. This is the science of your soul. And when you lose your mind, you lose control over your emotions, and you start behaving and acting any kind of way, which is what you see our people. We're crazy. We're just as crazy as the Mukaso today, because we lost our minds. And when you lose your mind, you lose control over your emotional state. So remember that. So health, first key to health is positive mind. Next is sunlight. As melanated people, you need sunlight, right? Master teacher always talks about that. That's why I like listen. I was listening to earlier when the masters was started to introduce us to right knowledge, right? Back in 1992, I think it's the Elohim tape or the People of the Sun tape. Listen to that, where he talks about the sun, Shimsa, and how we're connected to the sun. That's when he began to educate us about our sun culture. That's a very profound, powerful lecture back in 1992. It's on the internet. Check it out. It's on YouTube. Right? Health, right? Sunlight, water, right? The body's 70% water. You have to have water. Fasting. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I was listening to a brother was saying how, was it Nuri Muhammad? He was saying how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was telling him, you eat one day, you fast the next. You eat one day, you fast the next. He said, ultimately, you should be eating one day, you fast for 3 days. You eat once every 3 days. You know? Very important, because the body, especially the foods that we're eating, the body cannot digest it within 24 hours. And then we're right back eating again. Then this culture teaches you to eat 3 times a day. People eating all day. And then we're eating processed food that don't even break down in the body. That's why there's such a massive weight gain in America and around the world. People gaining all kinds of weight because we're eating processed food that it's not biodegradable. So it sticks inside our guts. And we don't give our body enough rest to be able to break it down so that you could flush that out, because we're eating every day and we don't realize we're addicted. It's addiction. We think we're hungry. We're going to say, I'm hungry. You ate yesterday. You're not hungry. That's an addiction, family. That's an addiction. The body, you can go without food for 60 days. You're not going to die. You're not going to drop dead. That's an addiction. If you think you have to eat the next day, it's an addiction. And all of us, I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it, because we're always raised like that. But now that we have the right knowledge, we need to be helping each other to fix these things. That's why we're supposed to be working together, because trying to do it by yourself is damn near impossible. We need each other, as they say. So you have the positive mind, sunlight, water, fasting, the herbal diet. right? Dr. Sebi taught us that. Exercise, rhythmic breathing, or that's why the master teacher put out the breath book. You have meditation, that's part of health. That's get your mind right. Concentration, get your mind right. And then you have the prayer and the chanting. All of that is what do they say? The biggest health issue in America is mental health. Mental health. It's really the biggest issue on planet Earth is mental health. People are crazy today. These are things that get the mind right. Last principle is pa'ut, understanding the creative force and the cycles that exist within nature and the different forces of 9 ether forces, 6 ether forces. All of these are key to our own spiritual development. The Bible is what put us in a state of ignorance where we're not connected to nature. But our doctrine is what fixes our ignorance. But this is where we at, family. You know, it's a process. The master put this out, the 4 paths of human beings in Wu-Sabat or Wu-Nuwaupu. He said the 4 paths. He said you have a Nasat or a Munsat, means one who exists as a human being. Then you have Najay or Munjay, one who saves. And then you have Nasar or Munsar, one who helps. And then you have Najab or Munjab, one who is excellent, right? An excellent being, one who does all that is required in their journey as students and advocates of Wu-Nuwaupu. They study all the actual facts and Patarat to learn and live by all the rules of our cultural way of life. They are those who live for, of, and by Wu-Nuwaupu. The master calls that person a Munjab or Nujab. That's one who is excellent when it comes to the culture of Wu-Nuwaupu or Wu-Sabat. A Nasar or Munsar, one who helps, a pure being, one who expresses the nature of a person who is devoted to helping Pandabab Yanun. They work to save the human beings who are ready to submit and accept Wu-Nuwaupu's journey. They are those who stay close to Pandabab Yanun and help with the removal of the spell of ignorance. Right? So, you know, these are keys and principles within our doctrine. The master also says there are 2 kinds of reports that Morzak-U or beings keep on each human being. This is something we learned when we was Ansars, right? In Islam, the master taught us this. This is still right knowledge. He says, Hizri says this is also the way human beings are judged when they transition from this 3rd density. He says, number 1, he says you have Pa Sahafat Shalil Tamat, and he says the pages of actions and deeds. So everything that a human being does is recorded, and that record is called Pa Sahafat Shalil Tamalat, right? The pages and actions of your deeds. So everything you do from the time you were born to the time you leave the planet is recorded, right? And that's something we talked about in Islam for those who are familiar with that. And then the next, you said your pages of action, deeds, and your works, right? All of that's recorded. Then the second thing is Pa Sahafat Shalil Taksadat, the pages of intentions. So you're judged by your intentions, not so much by actually what you did, but what your intentions were in what you do, right? So the master teacher always talks about that because everyone will have what they call a life review. People who have near-death experiences or people who know how to travel, astral project, have reported they've had these experiences of this life review where you see your actions and deeds, and you're basically judging yourself whether or not you're able to move on to a higher state, or you have to reincarnate. That's why the master teacher put out the master secrets. What's that number? What's that? Master secrets number 10. Let me see if I can find that. Master, I forget the name of it. Master secrets. Find it for you, family. Master Secrets was 2 of them. The cycles of life and death. Master Secrets number 10 is the cycle of life and death, right? Master Secrets number 10, the cycle of life and death. And then you have Master Secrets number 19. Where's that one at? Master Secrets number 19. The spiritual you after the physical you dies. Master Secrets number 19. They deal with those topics I just talked about and all. They both deal with that, you know. And this is knowledge, again, that we need to know for those who understand this, right? See, the doctrine, again, it's very difficult for our people, unfortunately, because of the fact that we have been so conditioned under Western culture, our vibrations off. And it makes it very difficult for our people to really tap into what right knowledge. You know, you have to do a lot of spiritual work to open your consciousness to really tap into right knowledge. That's why so many people fall off. The key is consciousness. If you can't maintain your consciousness in the doctrine, that's how a person loses themselves. They lose themselves. Remember, as Nagato people, as woolly hair melanated people, we have the highest consciousness potential. The problem is we don't use our consciousness potential, which is why we get caught up in silly things that we should not be caught up in. Our minds are easily distracted. Our minds is easily distracted. It shouldn't be, but it is. The master teacher, he put out this actual fact here, right? I talk about it a lot. Actual fact number 13. Nuwaupian ontologists of time. Actual fact number 13. Nuwaupian ontologists of time. Why is this important? Because he breaks down in this actual fact the different levels of consciousness. You have the Nagato, and because it's based on your consciousness is based on the different changing cycles within nature. So you have the smack circle that we talk about. We're all vibrating on a bottom at a 3rd density. That's where humanity is right now. The masters, we originally come from a 9th density, is on the top. And the difference between the 3rd density and the 9th density is the difference in vibrations, right? So as you move up the densities, the vibrations increase and get stronger and stronger. As the vibration increases, your consciousness increases. Your consciousness expands, and you become more in tune with the forces of nature as you increase. But right now, we're all existing on a 3rd density, which is the lowest vibration for us as humanity. It's a very low vibration that we're existing in. And so the consciousness here is weak. It's very weak. And so that's why it's difficult for people to comprehend Wu-Sabat, because Wu-Sabat is for the 9 mind. It's a high conscious doctrine. And so a lot of people can't tap into the culture of Wu-Sabat because their consciousness, they don't know how to raise their consciousness. We've been doing so much drugs. We've been eating such bad food, and we're so darn negative. We can't comprehend right knowledge. Most of our people, they can't comprehend right knowledge. You know, and again, that's why you see a lot of people that come into right knowledge and they don't last. They don't study the doctrine. They have a difficult time reading the books. The master is writing 400 page page books. People, they couldn't keep up. It was breaking their brain. And you have to really study the doctrine every day to raise your conscious awareness. In order to do battle with Leviathan, you have to be functioning at a high conscious state. And if you're not training yourself and conditioning your consciousness to elevate, you do not stand a chance against those negative forces within yourself. While people can't overcome their addictions, and you can't deal with the adverse forces outside ourselves. That's why we're in our conditions. What's this? I'm on page 6. It says, is paragraph 9. He says, so you see 333% of the complete number of 1,000. So the smash circle represents 1,000, right? 999 plus 1,000% of the energies and forces within nature. So when you're looking at the smash circle, the whole circle of Nuwaupu and Zupu, it represents 1,000%. Now, here's the key. He says, paragraph 10, you have 333, which is 333% of 1,000, which is the Hika Kasut or the Mukasu. They can only tap in. Basically, their consciousness locks them into the third density. Okay? Then he says, which is their limited of mentality, says the original mortals, which would be the other races like the Asiatics, right? They go up to 666% of the smack circle. And he says, and for the Nagato, 999%. We go up to 900. So we are able to experience all different vibrations within nature. We can experience and exist on every density. No other race can do that. We have the highest vibratory nature. Very important to know this. And so, because our consciousness is so low, that's why we're able to be controlled, because we're still in a state of mental death. Our consciousness is locked because of the Bible and calling on unseen spirit forces, which is the worst thing any species can ever do. You're calling on spirit forces and you don't know who you're calling on. Spirits are energy. Energy is spirits. And you're calling on conscious energies to your body, and they're having an adverse effect on you. In our culture, we never called on unfamiliar spirits. We called on our ancestors, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, your great-great-grandfather, your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. Beings you knew exist, all the way back to the Nathar. You knew they existed because they were in your bloodline. Anyone who knows anything about African spirituality, they always said the same thing. We called on our ancestors, those we knew exist. Today, our people all over the globe are calling on spirits. They have no clue who Allah is. They don't know who Jehovah is, or Hashem, or Yahweh, or Jesus, or whatever, Buddha. We're calling on Krishna. We're calling on all kinds of unseen spirits, unfamiliar spirits, and don't realize these are lower, spirits of the dead. And we're wondering why we're so chaotic. And you don't know what you're dealing with, because when your third eye is closed, you can't see into what? The spiritual realms, the higher densities. That's the whole point of the third eye being open. You can now see or tap into the other forces. With the third eye, conscious eye closed, you're cut off from tapping into the other forces within nature. The human body works on frequencies, like your eyesight, right? You have perfect eyesight. They say you have 20/20 vision. You have bad eyesight, so it's weaker. Some people have better than 20/20 vision. So that's how all the forces in nature work. There's a range from good to bad and from good to excellent, right? And so as Nagato, you have the highest potential of being able to connect to the different frequencies in nature. This is what the master teacher came to teach us. It's a lot. And it's very, and I know it's a challenge for our people because we messed up our genetics. The master talks about that all the time. Read the actual facts of proof. Actual fact number 108, the proof. The master talks about the importance of our genetics. You know, we are the last people that should be altering our genetics with any other group of people because everyone else has a weaker vibration than us. And so when you connect with those of weaker vibrations and you adapt to their thinking and their way of life, it reduces you. Now, it's one thing if you do have someone that's of another race, right? And you're a Nuwaupian, you bring them up to our culture so you don't have to drop down. But usually that's not what happens. Our people get with people of other races and they are living a foreign culture. They're not living Wu-Sabat. So they're not maintaining their frequency. And they're not bringing that person up to our level rather than we dropping down to their level. 99% of the time, we're dropping down to their level. And why? And so you got to ask yourself, well, why would you even want to do that? Why would you want to get with those who have a weaker vibration that you run the risk of being, getting trapped, especially this concept people call love? You fall in love, see, that's the key there. You fall in love, you drop in vibration and you lose yourself. You run that risk when you do that. So as long as we stay ignorant to these forces, as long as we stay ignorant to what religion did to us as a people, got us calling on unseen spirit forces, these are energies that our people are bringing into themselves, you run the risk of mental death. That's why we're in our state right now, mentally dead, because we don't comprehend these energies and these forces. This is what makes the master teacher the master teacher. Teaching is that which no one else has this type of right knowledge and understand because they don't understand anything about the smart circle. No one understands the smart circle and how we're intertwined into other densities. We can be in the same space, but space can have many different densities occupying the same space. And once you become in tune with your own natural nature, you can pair into the other different densities and frequencies. For instance, we're on a material plane, the third density, right? It's interwoven with what we call the plane of force. Now, the plane of force is also on the third density. It's just a higher vibration. It's the realm where let's say the ghost realm. I always show like hold on, I'll show you. I always like to show when I talk about Doctor Strange that they do a good job in those movies now talking about these spiritual realms. People think it's fake, it's movie, but hold on, let me put it on. Yeah, so this was in the Avengers movie, and then the Incredible Hulk confronts the Master, right? And then the Master knocks the Hulk and he separates the Hulk from his body. The Hulk and Dr. Banner. Anyone who knows the comic book stuff, I like the comic book stuff. And so now, and check it out now, and the Master's in tune. So check it out. I'll play it.
I'd be careful going that way. We just had the floors waxed.
I'm looking for Dr. Strange.
You're about 5 years too early. Stephen Strange is currently performing surgery about 20 blocks that way. What do you want from him?
That, actually.
Ah! I'm afraid not.
Sorry, but I wasn't asking.
You don't want to do this.
You're right, I don't. But I need that stone, and I don't have time to debate it.
Now, right? So now he's separated from the body, the physical body. Now he's in the spirit body, and he's on the plane of force now. She's able to see him still. Why? Because she's in tune with the other densities. Her third eye is open, so she can see into that realm. That's why people say they see ghosts and different spirits, whatever, right? And so we used to have those abilities naturally. It's dormant in us now, as the master to explain, but we've lost this ability 6,000 years ago when it was natural to us to see into other densities. Then that's how you would know how to fight off any kind of adverse spirit that would come to you. Now we don't know how to fight those spirits off because we're not in tune with the other densities. So we're vulnerable. We're vulnerable people. Humanity is vulnerable because humanity, has no knowledge of these things anymore. The master does a great job in the book, The Science of Healing, not The Science of Healing, Science of Creation. The Science of Creation, where he talks about the different planes of vibration. He talks about the different planes of vibration. If I can find it. Excuse me. Where is it at? The Science of Science of Creation. It's right here. Science of Creation. Let me bring it up. Let me show you guys, because I know y'all can't see my screen right now. So let me end that. Share my screen again. And here's the book. This is The Science of Creation. And so in this particular scroll, this scroll came out, for those who don't know, back in, I think 1996, 1995, 96. This when it came out. Very powerful scroll. Very powerful scroll. And the master is going into the planes, right? So he's talking about the different vibrations. And so you have the material plane, then you have the plane of force, you have the spiritual plane. So the material plane, the plane of force, and the spiritual plane, all of those three planes are on the third density, right? So we're in the third density. When you get to the mental plane, now you're in the fourth density. You now move into the realm where the so-called extraterrestrials are. They start at the fourth density going up. Like the masters are up at the ninth density. So you have masters at the fourth density, you have them at fifth, all the way up to 9. But that's where extraterrestrials are at the fourth density. Humanity is stuck on the third density. But there are different vibratory densities or planes within the third density. So you have the material plane, the spiritual plane, and the plane of force. All of that's in the third density. When you get to the mental plane, number 4, now you're moving into what we call the fourth density, or the fourth plane, the mental plane, right? And that's where the masters start at that realm where they exist at. So planets that they exist on, it's vibrating at a higher rate than the planet Earth. The energies there they're vibrating higher and all. This is important, family. In order to comprehend this doctrine, you have to raise your consciousness. If you don't do the spiritual work, you're not a positive person, overstanding your own emotional state, get in control of your emotional state. All of these things matter. Controlling your energies. Emotions is energy in motion. Controlling your emotional state, which means you have to control your consciousness, your mind. In order to control your mind, the more right knowledge you have, the better you can control your consciousness. That's why right knowledge is so important. But it's so difficult for our people because our people consciousness has been reduced, that's what slavery did, right? They made it illegal for our ancestors to study, to learn knowledge, to have knowledge. They dumbed them down. They put them in a state of ignorance. During slavery, we were totally ignorant of self and kind. That's why we accepted anything the Mukasu taught us, because they reduced our consciousness or a child to childlike. That's why this slave master would call us, boy, go get over here, boy, do this, boy, because they know they reduced our consciousness. When they conquered us, they really abused us. They really messed us up. We had help along the way. Who came? You had the Noble Drew came. He helped raise our consciousness. Marcus Garvey came. He helped raise our consciousnness. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad came. He helped raise our consciousness. They all prepared the way for the master teacher to finish the job of of restoring our consciousness, the mentally dead. That's something the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about, the mental dead. He came to wake the mental dead, but he knew he can only take us to a certain level. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that a God will come to raise, to take you, to the hereafter, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about. The God incarnate is Panabab Yanun. A noon, what we call a noon being, had to come down, because only a noon being can defeat Leviathan, where the planet is ruled by some serious, powerful forces. It requires a spiritual master to come, because all our prior teachers weren't spiritual masters. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was not. Marcus Garvey was not. Noble Drew Ali was not. None of them were spiritual masters. We didn't have any spiritual master like the master. Haven't been anyone like him on the planet to raise our consciousness for the last 25,000 years, or we say 24,000 years, because a being like this only comes, the master explained to us, every 24,000 years. Once every 24,000 years, a being like this comes. So the last time you had a noon being like the master was 24,000 years ago. Now, it may seem a long time to humans on Earth, but from a universal perspective, a galactic perspective, those timelines isn't a big deal. Universes are dealing with millions and billions of years. That's why in their Bible, they talk about, in Revelation chapter 21, a new heaven and a new earth. They're talking about new cycle. Revelation chapter 21, new cycle, new heaven, new earth, new time cycle. It said there'll be no more death, because you're now, anyone who's in the hereafter are in tune with their own spiritual nature. As spirit forces don't die. Their energy, the law of thermodynamics, even the Mukasu knows that energy isn't created or destroyed. It only changes form, frequency, and vibration. And as long as you know how to maintain your consciousness as a spirit force, you continue to exist. You'll have perpetual existence. How you go out of existence as a spirit is to lose your consciousness. But this is a lot. Family, take your time. Study. It's so much that we went over. I always encourage individuals to research everything we talk about. I also like to give a disclaimer also. I'm not above making mistakes. I know I make mistakes. If I do, make any mistakes, do not hesitate to correct me. I'm not absorbed with my ego, so I will make any corrections as necessary. So I always like to give that disclaimer if I can remember. I'm not above making mistakes. It's so much. That's why, again, as a reminder, we will definitely be back next week, Tuesday, to move through this. This is such important information. It's very challenging information. I know that. It's very challenging. That's why we don't have a lot of people who be listening to a lot of my lectures, because I'm constantly focusing on these topics, on spirituality, spiritual development, consciousness development, working together. Our minds, it's hard for a lot of our people. They can't see it. They're so overwhelmed by Leviathan, they just can't see it. Leviathan has their consciousness trapped. So they don't see any way out of the situation, the chaos they see on the planet, because they're looking at everything in their life and the situation from the wrong perspective. If you can start seeing existence from energy's points of view, different forms of energy, then your perceptions will change. But our people don't, they have been trained to think like that. So it's very difficult for us to deal with one another because we're not looking at it from energy. But if you start doing energy work yourself, you become more in tune with different energies around yourself. And you will know agreeable energies to be around from disagreeable energies. In that, from that perspective, you can't be tricked. But when the consciousness is low, you can be tricked because you're not in tune with different energies. So people can lie and trick you because they can't lie to energy. A negative energy is a negative energy. If you know how to read it, you can perceive it. You can hear it on YouTube lectures and news and politicians, because all they do is lie. You don't need no high spiritual awareness to see all the lies that a lot of people tell. Unfortunately, if you have enough right knowledge, you can see past a lot of the games. So the more you increase in right knowledge, the more you will have a harmonious existence here, because we're living in a planet today that is a high levels of stress because they have everybody economically stressed out, especially the upcoming generation. They're trying to trap you consciously, economically, to put you on high levels of stress where you weren't about food, clothing, shelter. It's that's done on purpose. When you're in high levels of stress, you can't really focus right. So, with that being said, we're gonna close out. I thank everyone for the support. Right? Always say thumbs up, support what we do, spread the word. We still have our social media project that's still there, that we ask everybody to support. Right? Nuwaupu.org. Become a member of Nuwaupu Community Circle. Become a member. This is important work if we understood it. I know it's hard for us to understand the power of controlling our own media, our own social media, family. They've been banning our people left and right. If you say the wrong thing in their media, they ban us. And social media is a very powerful tool because it connects us with people all over the globe. Look at us. We're people from all over the country, probably somebody from other outside, countries listening to this lecture. It's a very powerful tool. Very, very powerful tool. But we should have control over it. We should not be allowing ourselves to be susceptible to someone else controlling our communication. But only this, something like this to work. You obviously, social media is, you have to have hundreds of thousands to millions of people supporting it. But if we were working as a group, a body, we can make it happen. If people really begin to see the importance of a project like this, they will start to support it. As I say, spread the word. Spread the word. This is a worthy goal. A worthy goal. Our own social media platform, our own reference encyclopedia. Because all they do is lie on Wikipedia, and their media. They that's one of the ways they capture our minds today, through their media. It's one of the most powerful tools they have against us is media and their educational system, which is designed for massive brainwashing. But with all that being said, family, we will definitely be back next week, Tuesday, the same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be posting lectures. Like I said, I was trying to post a lecture on Saturdays. Where the next lecture we're going to be doing is what is Nuwaupu, right? What is Wu-Sabat? So we're going to focus on that. Post that Saturday. So when we come back live, hopefully you guys have watched it and can ask detailed questions on that particular lecture. What is Wunuwap? What is Nuwaupu? Very important that every Nuwapian, every Sabian understands what is Nuwaupu, is the power of Nuwaupu, the science of Nuwaupu, because that is going to help all of us become better teachers. That's the goal here. So, with all that being said, much love, much peace, and wadu, Moisar. Wadu, wadu, wadu.